Hi everyone, Eloise here, and today I have the absolute pleasure of guest designing for the Greeting Farm. So I'm a big fan of the Greeting Farm, and so for today's card I'm going to be using the Little Mermaid stamp set, which is probably one of my absolute favourites from the Greeting Farm. I've used it so many times, so I'm going to go ahead and use it today for a scene card. So I'm first going to be stamping out just a couple of the mermaids, the starfish, some seaweed and some other fish as well onto some Nina Solar White cardstock with some Memento Tuxedo black ink, and I'm going to be colouring all of my images with my Copic markers. So I'm going ahead and doing the dark to light technique since it's super fast, and I'm going to be starting off with this mermaid here. So I'm colouring this particular mermaid just like Ariel, since every time I make a mermaid card I have to have one of them looking like Ariel. So I'm colouring her hair in red, and I'm not the best at colouring in hair, but I just coloured the hair in just the way I would colour in any other image, and just find where I think the darkest spots would be and go there first and do the darkest spots there. So now for the tail, I'm doing sort of a bluey green colour, since that's how I like to colour my mermaid's tails in. So I'm just using BG49, BG18 and BG23, and that creates a really nice greeny blue tail. And then I just use some purples for the little top of the mermaid there. Now I'm going ahead and using some YRs to colour in this little mermaid's hair blonde. So I'm just using YR24, YR23 and YR21 for that. And I just thought this created quite a nice goldy blonde hair. Now I'm using some pink for this other little mermaid's top here, and then some yellows for the starfish in the other mermaid's hair. So now that I've gone ahead and basically coloured everything else in on the mermaids, I'm going to go on the skin. So I'm just using my favourite, or one of my favourite skin tone combinations there. Now I'm just using some greens for this little seaweed here, and then I'm going to use some blues for this little fish, so just B, 26, 24 and 21, and then just using some RVs for the little fish on the left here. And then I also used some oranges for that last fish. I just didn't show that on camera since it's the same technique. So now that I'm going to go ahead and done all of my die cutting, I just used the coordinating dies for that. I'm going to create a watercolor background, and I'm just going to do this really messily since I am going to be die cutting it after I finished all my watercoloring. So I'm just using my Kuretake Gansai watercolors, and I'm going to be using 3 different blues, so a light on the top, medium in the middle and dark on the bottom. And so I'm just doing it in like sort of an ombre way, I guess, and I'm going to go ahead and do 2 layers. So I just dried that in the middle there, and then I'm wetting my piece once again and putting some darker colour on top just to create a little bit of variation in colour here. And then once I have completely coloured over this entire piece once again, I'm just taking my heat tool and drying it once again completely. And then once I have completely finished all of the drying, I'm going to go ahead and die cut it out. So I'm just fixing out my background a little bit here. I just add a little bit more water to make those colours just move a little bit better and blend in a little bit better with each other. So I've just gone ahead over with some water again, and that blended it out really nicely. So now I'm going to go ahead and use this die here, and I'm going to die cut this panel. I just want all of the different waves, so that's why I decided to pull out this die, but you could just use your scissors or use other dies that you may own. I'm just using this one because it was just, only took one run through my Big Shot machine and it was all done. So that's what I decided to do. And so then on the left, those are all of the pieces cut out, and that's how I'm going to have it arranged on my card. So now that I've gone ahead and die cut all of those pieces out, I'm just going to go ahead and add some foam tape all onto the back of these pieces. So I'm just cutting tiny little strips and adhering them behind each one. You could just adhere this flat to the card, or you could add some fun foam onto the back of the entire piece before you die cut it. but I didn't mind spending a little bit of time just cutting tiny little pieces to fit behind. It worked out just fine. So now that I've gone ahead and added all the foam adhesive to the back, I'm just adhering it down onto my card. So I'm just peeling off all the backers and adhering it into place, making sure that I leave some white spots in between each layer, just because I wanted it to really look like waves, and so this I thought looked really neat. So now that I've gone ahead and done that, I sort of adhered it not as evenly, so I'm actually just going to go ahead and cut down my card base just to make it a little bit smaller. Now for my sentiment, I forgot to stamp on the piece before I adhered it down, so I pulled out my Misty stamping tool and I just lined up my sentiment on the inside, just on that piece where I wanted it to be stamped. And then because I'd already had so much dimension on this piece, I decided to go ahead and remove that black inner piece, since that foam tape behind that layer there popped up that panel enough to be able to stamp it. So now that I've got that piece in there, I just inked it up with some VersaFine Onyx Black ink and I just stamped it down. I did have to press a few times just to make sure that it's stamped down really nicely. Now that I've gone ahead and stamped down the sentiment, I've just sort of arranged my pieces on my background how I think I want them. And so here is what the final card is going to look like. So again, I'm just taking that same 3M foam adhesive and adding pieces all along the back and adhering all of my fish and the mermaids and other little accents onto the card. And I really wanted a lot of dimension, so it does have a couple of layers of foam tape on here, but I think it'll be okay. Now that I've adhered all of my pieces down, I'm just going to go ahead and add a last few finishing touches. So I've just pulled out some of these clear glitter gumdrops and I'm just adhering these down onto my card, just in a trio at the top and then just a couple of them at the bottom. And then I'm going to pull out my Wink of Stella glitter pen in the clear. This is my favourite one to use. I don't really use any other colours, I mainly just use the clear. And I'm just going to go ahead and colour over some of the images. So I'm colouring over each of the mermaid's hair and their tails, and then I'm going to go ahead and colour in, I believe, all 3 of the fish as well, just to give it a lot of shimmer and shine and make it a little bit more magical, and I just love all the sparkle it gives as well. So that finishes up my card for today. I hope you enjoyed. I will be back next week with another card on the Greeting Farm YouTube channel, and I will catch you all next time. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!